Welcome to You Not Crazy Conversations of Hope. We are on episode 6 today, and I'm so excited about this conversation. We are talking about how to find strength in community during life transitions. Listen, we're going to talk about how community support plays a vital role in our mental health, particularly for men navigating life transitions. And today's guest is Isaiah Mixon. All right. He's a preacher and seminarian currently based in Baltimore, Maryland. He's an ordained reverend, evangelist, and community activist. He endeavors to not only bridge people to faith in Jesus Christ, but also bridge people to each other and actions in their communities. Isaiah's preaching and unique transparency in his teaching continues to help people across varying walks of life. He maintains an active preaching schedule. He's busy, y'all, sharing his faith and ministry work through various platforms from pulpits to communities to social media. He is here today to share how he has found strength and resiliency through mental health care and community support. So thank you, Isaiah, for being my guest today. How you been?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being
Good.
here.
It's so good to see you. Listen, life is full of many transitions. You hear me?
Hmm.
Some exciting, but some challenging, right? And so I think a lot of time people don't recognize that transitions can be exciting and challenging. That can include whether moving to a new city, starting a new job, or even navigating a relationship shift, right? And so
Yeah.
all of them can either be exciting or challenging, but regardless, changes often stir up complex emotions. And so it's important to recognize the connection between life transitions and mental health. Because oftentimes during transitions, people may experience feelings of uncertainty, anxiety, and even sadness to adjust to those new circumstances. And I think that impacts how people think, feel, and even interact with others. So change is hard. Listen, so can you tell us about a time that you had to transition and what that was like for you as a man?
Yeah, sure. I mean, transitioning up here to Baltimore
Mhm.
from Orlando, Florida. So,
Okay.
lived half my life in Orlando, Florida, was
Okay.
helping my family's church, very active
Mhm.
with my family's ministry
Okay.
to the point that, I thought that I would be taking over the church one day. And uh, I had I had the notion that it was time for me to step out.
Mhm.
And when I transitioned to Baltimore, it
Mhm.
was rough. I mean,
Mm.
I'm not gonna lie. My
Mhm.
I remember the day I left, the day before I left, my brother,
Mhm.
me and my big brother, Tim,
Mhm.
who's like one of
Mhm.
my best friends,
Aw.
I couldn't even say goodbye without, we literally broke down and cried. Like,
Aw.
and you know,
Yeah.
we're not like the big crier type of family,
Yeah.
but we boo-hooed. But what I
Aw.
found out, through
Mhm.
experience and through just life studying things of that nature,
Mhm. Mhm.
what I found out was in transition, uh,
Mhm.
I think the operative word there is trans, and that
Mm.
comes from a Latin word trans, which means to move across or go beyond or
Mhm.
go to the other side of.
Mhm.
And that transition, it caused me to go beyond myself,
Mm.
not just beyond a particular state physically,
Mhm.
but it,
Mhm.
it caused me to go beyond a state of being. And that caused some anxiety, that caused some uncertainty, because
Mhm.
to go beyond something means that you're having faith that there is something on the other side,
That's
because I don't
good.
know what's on the other side.
Mhm.
You Transition means the unknown.
That's good.
But for you to kind of make that movement in your life,
Mhm.
with every transition should come a transmission, which means
Mhm.
movement should happen. There should
That's
be
good.
movement happening, because there's no transition if you're just being stuck in a place. So I had to realize
Mhm.
and reflect that I was stuck in a certain area,
Mhm. That's good.
mentally, physically, emotionally, and I needed a transition to
Mhm.
begin to transmit me out of that place. And so that's what I did. And once I got to that place, I mean, it's been great. It's been great.
Wow.
Scary, but it's
Yeah.
been great.
And you know what I'm taking away is that change, even though it has it can be good because it's needed for our growth. It can also be hard, right? So, they said the brain is adaptive, right?
Hmm.
We often crave stability and predictability.
For sure.
And I think change a lot of times, can disrupt that equilibrium that we're used to, right? Which can cause our
Hmm.
brain to react in various ways. As you said, it's like it creates that anxiety because you don't know what is to come. And so I think when I think about that, I think about what really played a part in, that transition piece in, so I think about maybe this is where community comes in, right? So many people think that mental health is a solo journey, but I believe that community support is definitely a game changer, right? Because it
For
can give
sure.
us a sense of belonging and shared experience. So when you think about your transition from Orlando to Baltimore, I know you left a community in Orlando. And so
Hmm.
when you think about what role did your friends and family and support groups play in your transition and even just kind of navigating through what I'm hearing is, the anxiety or the other factors that kind of came with your transition?
It came with some uncertainty from them. To be
Mm,
honest,
okay.
I grew up in a family structure. The
Mhm.
ecosystem of our family is you kind of don't leave. Not
Mm.
as a, I'm not saying that as a bad thing,
No,
but
I got
because
you.
we're just such a tight-knit family,
Mhm,
it's kind of weird when somebody says, I'm
mhm.
moving,
Okay,
so
okay.
for me to do that, it was like, hey, what's going on? What's wrong?
Mm,
And for me, before I became, well, let me say this, even when it comes to community,
mhm.
because during that time, that's kind of when I found my best friend too,
Okay.
oddly enough,
Mm,
because before I became an ordained reverend, an ordained elder
mhm,
in
mhm,
the church in my 20s, I
mhm.
was married, and
Okay.
unfortunately, we went through a divorce at the end of my
Mm,
20s,
okay.
and that healing journey was long and hard.
Mm,
It was
okay.
it was rough. It challenged my emotions. It challenged my
Mm,
mental. It
mhm.
challenged my manhood.
Okay.
Um, and with that, I was looking for
That's good.
somebody to love. And the funny thing,
Mm,
if I can make the intersection of
mhm.
therapy and theology, and
Yeah.
that is, I thought God would maybe try to send me another love in the form of a
Mm,
woman. And
that's good.
hopefully I want somebody to hear this.
Mhm,
And let me be very clear. My sexual orientation has not changed. I'm heterosexual.
mhm.
But instead of replacing that love with romance,
Okay.
God allowed people to love on me in a different way. So I
Mm,
thought because I
that's
lost
good.
a romantic relationship, I needed to
That's
replace
good.
it with a romantic relationship.
Mhm,
And the whole time, I have my barber cutting my hair, and he's
mhm.
getting to know me in a way that nobody else
Mm,
knows me. And then lo and behold, my barber becomes my best friend, and we
wow.
created a love
That's
for
good.
each other
Mhm.
that healed me in a space that I
Mm,
didn't think that type of relationship could heal me.
that's
So
good. That's good.
sometimes we're trying to replace sometimes we're trying to replace one relationship
Good.
for the same type of relationship to
Mm,
heal us in the
good.
same place. But sometimes, if I can say, God uses different spaces to heal us uh,
Mhm.
in familiar areas.
That's good. That's
You know,
really good.
and in that I found a community with him, and then
Mm,
with my brother who's always been my friend,
mhm.
and then me saying, okay, it's time for me to
That's good.
leave.
Mhm,
The funny thing is, I wouldn't have been able to make that transition and have the courage to say, okay,
mhm,
it's time for me to leave if
mhm.
that relationship didn't come into my life.
Mm,
It brought a new confidence in me,
that's good.
because that circle showed me not just the me that I
Mhm.
was, it showed me the me that I was becoming.
Oh, that's good.
You
That's
know,
very
so
good.
that relationship
Mhm.
allowed it became a mirror for me, and not
Mm,
just a mirror to, like I said, who I was, but
mhm.
a mirror, like a foreshadow of who I'm supposed to be. And that
Mm,
gave me the strength, gave me the courage,
that's
gave
good.
me the wherewithal to say, hey, this space healed me, and now because I'm healed, I have to make a transition.
Okay, that was good. I love how you said that a lot of times we try to replace something we lost with that same thing, right?
Hmm.
And so, but what community seems to have taught you is that it is you need community that kind of um, feels fills you up from the point where they see what is needed, right?
Yeah.
They are able
Hmm.
to speak to where you're going, right? So
Hmm.
we want to make sure we have people around us um, that can see where we're trying to go. And I think that's healing in itself because they are able to kind of pull out the things within us that we don't know or that we need, right?
For
And
sure.
so I love that. I love that. And so I love how you even mentioned as far as community showed up for you in a way that you wasn't expecting,
Hmm.
right? Here it is, your barber this whole time, and it's God ordained, it's being cultivated,
Yeah.
and then it becomes something that's needed that speaks into where you are, and it begins to kind of heal those areas that you didn't even probably, I'm assuming, recognize needed healing.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah, there was areas in my life that I had no idea that I needed
Mm,
healing. It caused me even to go beyond the
mm,
current uh situation that I was facing,
that's
and
good.
even go back to my childhood
Mm,
and kind of go back and hug the little boy in me that was hurt. Now
mm,
that also came with not just having a community,
mhm.
but then, or let me say, adding to that community, because I
Okay,
added
I like
during that
that.
time, I added a therapist to my
Mm,
community,
okay.
to my village as well, because I believe that Jesus and therapy can definitely
Mm,
coexist. Absolutely. So that helped me with therapy,
okay.
find myself and find areas in myself that were hurting that I didn't even
Mm,
know were hurt.
mhm,
So it was such a it provided such a deep cleaning
mm,
for me. And I
mhm,
think it was even better that not only having therapy, but allowing God to come into that
yeah,
therapy, allowing God to
mhm,
come into that community that really did the job and allowed me to become who I am becoming now. Because sometimes we can
mhm.
have the wrong people in our community, and instead of
Say
bringing
that.
those things out of us,
Yeah.
there's things that then come into us that we don't need.
Mhm.
It
Good.
off the top of my head,
Mhm,
I think of Adam and Eve in the garden.
mhm,
They essentially had a community with themselves and with God.
mhm. That's good.
And at some point in Genesis 3, they let their community get infiltrated by someone who meant them no
Mm,
good.
that's
And
good. That's
and
really
when
good.
they allowed the serpent to come into their community
Mhm,
and say something that is contradictory
mhm.
to their forward movement, it caused them to be in a state
Good.
of of realizing something that was
Mhm.
once good and now is perverted.
That's good.
So when the serpent tells them,
Mhm,
when this happens and they eat of the tree, they
mhm,
realize that they're naked. And the one thing, one of the first thing that God asked them
mhm.
is, "Who told you you were naked?
I told you.
Like, who have you let in your ear
Mhm.
to allow you to have a reaction to something that I made pure?"
That's good.
Because nakedness wasn't a bad thing in the
Mhm,
garden.
mhm,
And then when you let the wrong things inside of you, let the wrong people around you, it'll
mhm.
pervert what God made pure.
That's good.
So even community
Good.
in that sense is important, so that the purpose that God is trying to do in you doesn't
Mhm.
come perverted by the wrong people speaking wrong into you.
That is really good. And so, what I'm hearing you saying is that yes, community is important, but you can also add to it. And I know you mentioned
Hmm.
as far as, even going to therapy, just being mindful who's in your ear. And sometimes the people who are in our ear need to have the wisdom and insight that's needed to kind of help us propel and go through growth in our healing journey, right? And so I know you
For sure.
mentioned as far as adding to your community with therapy, which I love because I definitely believe it's important that we drink from different wells, right? Just
Hmm.
one well alone will not replenish us, right? And so yeah, and so when you think about when you added to therapy, were there any challenges that you had about seeking therapy? Yeah, how do you think you kind of got to that point to add to your community therapy?
It took reflection,
Mm,
and I like to say, they always say, I guess, kind of like the first step is like acceptance.
okay. Mhm.
There's kind of, for me, there was kind of like a 1A and a 1B,
Okay.
and that 1B being acceptance, but that 1A before acceptance was I had to acknowledge. Um,
Mm,
I had to acknowledge that like I have extended myself past
okay,
my limit,
that's good.
and um I also realized that although I love my circle, although I love
Mhm,
my community,
mhm,
I think I need to add to my community,
mhm.
um,
That's
to
good.
get another voice, to get another sound board, to get another space to vent. Um,
Mm,
Not because I don't trust them, but
right.
because sometimes you need spaces that are not familiar with you,
That's good. That's good.
because spaces that are not familiar with you can
Mhm.
really see you. Sometimes
Mm,
we're so close to the portrait that we can't see the
mhm.
painting.
That's good. That's really
So
good.
we can't see everything that's there.
Mhm,
And so having that person come in and really be able to kind of, talk to me and,
mhm.
be trained enough, in their abilities and in their
That's good.
faculties and in their skills
Mhm,
to see these things that I'm saying and make determinations, make their findings, make their marks, and then challenge me in certain ways.
okay.
So it took me realizing that I can't continue in this manner. To be
That's
honest, it
good.
so that means I had to bring my pride down.
Okay.
I had to bring my
That's
pride
good.
down,
Mhm,
especially as I make even making that move from Baltimore, and
mhm,
I'm in a space of being healed and being whole.
mhm.
But sometimes, even as being a preacher, we're so used to
That's good.
communicating and
Mhm,
we're so used to prescribing that we
mhm.
forget to go to the doctor ourselves.
That's good.
you
That's
know and i
good.
i had to realize that
That's
outside
good.
of being a preacher and a man of
Mhm,
God, I'm a
mhm.
person going through life. I'm a
That's
human
good. That's really
having a
good.
real human experience dealing
Mhm.
with human emotions. Human emotion does not get to alleviate me just because I preach to people
That's that's
you
good.
know so
That's
I had to
good.
realize that I'm not Superman,
That's
and
good.
be okay with that, and be
Mhm.
okay with that, and put my cape up
Yeah,
and take myself in somebody's office and have
that's
a
good.
conversation so that I can continue my healing, and
Mhm.
continue being whole, and even to I still use it now as checkpoints,
Mhm.
checkpoints
I
with
love that.
myself.
I love
Just
that.
because I got healed from an area and I'm whole from that
Mm,
area,
mhm.
I'm still becoming. So there's still
That's
some
good.
checkups that need to happen, because sometimes even when you're becoming and you move past the thing,
Mhm.
sometimes there are triggers, sometimes there are environments that may want to bring you back, or they give you
Mhm.
memories, or they
Mm.
give you flashbacks, and
That's good.
sometimes you kind of need to check that up against somebody,
Mhm.
um, so that the moment doesn't become a monument, right?
That's good.
And you're able to keep on moving.
That that is good. I mean, you shared so many key things that, especially just takeaway. It's like it's okay to find an environment, a space that can share things with you that maybe your community may not have, right?
Hmm.
And so I love that. And so, as you kind of shared, many men today maybe facing with just the overwhelming pressure to maintain keeping on the cape, right? Or just maintaining this ideology of what masculinity looks like, right? And so but it's very important when we're experiencing transitions to be able to have someone to help us with redefining or resetting the blueprint, particularly for the new season of our life,
Hmm.
right? So I love that. And so I definitely enjoyed listening to the wisdom. And so, one question I would ask: what would you say to your younger self about mental health and seeking help?
don't wait to seek it.
Mm,
It's not just for women.
good. That's good. Mm,
Um,
that's really good.
it, Allow yourself to feel
Mhm.
and not pack everything in.
Mm,
Um,
that's good.
the first time that something is wrong, seek
Mhm.
help.
Mm,
Uh, for
that's
me
good.
to speak kind of further into that, um, when I was like a preteen, going into my
Mhm.
preteen
Mhm.
years, I was molested repeatedly, and I
Mm,
never said anything.
wow.
Um, I remember just to take another minute.
Mhm.
I remember
Mhm.
writing a note to my mother that
Mhm.
summer that it happened.
Wow.
Um, because I didn't know what to do with what I keep repeatedly
Mm,
experiencing. So
that's
I wrote a
good.
note. I just wrote a note, and it was very cryptic.
Mhm.
Um, but my mom, she's the type that she just keeps stuff of ours. She has a
Mm,
keepsake
mhm.
box of all of our stuff, right?
Mhm.
And one day, that was when I was maybe 10. One
Mhm.
day when I'm a senior in high school,
Mm,
so I'm 17 years old,
mhm.
I get a call to the office and they say, "Hey, your mother wants to talk to you. She's in the conference room." I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
um, just a regular day. And my
Mhm.
mom pulls out that note
Wow.
with tears in her eyes, and she says, "For some reason, I decided to read this note today." And she
Mm,
said, "I finally know what it means after what, 7, 8 years."
wow.
She said, "And I felt so bad that I had to come to you now."
Mm, wow.
And at that time, I was already so damaged that I wasn't receptive.
Mhm.
At that time, so I wasn't ready to have that conversation
Mhm.
or to travel down that road.
Yeah.
Um, but the old adage, if you see something, say something.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think we can kind of use that in our own lives as well. If
Mhm.
you feel something, say something.
Good. That's good.
Even if it causes an uncomfortable conversation, if you feel
Mhm.
something, say something.
Mhm.
So that, because clarity can be given when that happens,
That's good.
community can be given when that
Mhm.
happens, help can be given. And
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I was a child, so I didn't know what to do with
Yeah.
that.
Of course.
But what I would tell my younger self is
Mhm.
that it's okay. It's okay to speak up.
Mm.
It's okay to talk. It's okay
Mhm.
to not try to figure it out by yourself.
Mm. That's good. That's
Yeah,
good. Thank you for sharing that. And, even with you sharing your testimony, I definitely believe that is going to help other men feel seen, right? So that they're not
for sure.
suffering in silence with something that has happened to them years ago. So
Hmm.
I greatly appreciate that because that's definitely important, like you said, that you don't wait, right? Because that can show up in so many other ways than we understand. And so I definitely just appreciate all your wisdom and all your insight when it comes to that. And so, last thing, what would you say to a man who, let's say, had similar experiences, are going through life transitions, especially when we have our life plan out sometimes and it doesn't go as expected? What would you say to another man who's struggling internally with all these challenges? What would you say to them when it comes to seeking help?
When it comes to seeking help,
Mhm.
I would say do it sooner than later.
Mhm.
I know you probably don't want to because you're
Mhm.
kind of sucked into this vortex
Yeah.
of not wanting to talk to somebody,
Mhm.
being embarrassed, feeling shame,
Mhm.
feeling emotions that you may not want people to even know that you
Mhm.
feel.
That's good.
Uh, but you know, healing doesn't come. I guess I'll say it like this. There was one
Mhm.
time, I had a cut,
Okay.
and as it was in this healing process, and it was
Mhm.
and it was covered, it was covered for some time. My mom said, while you're changing it, leave it open for a little bit, so that it can get out in the open, so
Mm.
that it can breathe. And sometimes you have to allow those wounds. to
Mhm.
breathe.
That's good. That's
Uh,
really
uh, uh,
good.
you know, you have to change the dressing
Mm,
on
that's
it,
good. That's
or
good.
else you're going to risk being further infected
Mhm.
if you keep on trying to heal with bloody bandages.
That's good. That's
So
good.
what I can say, even further than that, even though it doesn't feel like it and it
Mhm.
sounds kind of cliche to say,
Mhm.
but I literally know from experience
Mhm.
that is, it does get better.
That's
It,
good.
it really does
That's
get
good.
better.
Mhm.
It takes a little time,
Mhm.
but it does get better. Uh, one thing that comes to one thing that comes to mind
Mhm.
is the scripture, though the vision tarry, uh,
Mm. Wait for it.
wait for it will
Mhm.
not tarry.
Mhm.
Uh, so that means while you're waiting, God is working,
That's
so
good.
that you won't have to wait for long.
That's good. That is that is good. Thank you for that. Like I enjoyed this conversation
Yeah,
so
this was
much.
awesome.
You're such wonderful insight and wisdom. Thank you so much. Listen, ultimately, guys, the key to managing mental health during transition is really recognizing that you cannot do it alone, right?
Mhm.
Community, it can be people that God brings in your life. It could be therapy, it can be mentorship, but ultimately, creating and nurturing relationships with people who are supportive, non judgmental, and encouraging can help you gain perspective, feel less isolated, and develop those healthier coping strategies so that you can be everything you were purposed and designed to be. So when transitions bring up intense feelings or seem overwhelming, again, seek therapists, seek support, seek your community ultimately. So y'all lean into your community and prioritize excuse me, your mental health as you navigate these life transitions. Again, thank you so much, Isaiah, for taking the time to share your insight. I know you have helped our listeners feel seen and validated and understood about the importance of community. So I appreciate you. And so, guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our YouTube, our TikTok, and our Instagram. And don't forget to share this with someone else. You never know what they may be enduring, and they just need this message of hope. So, thank you guys for taking the time to tune in. Until next time, see you later.